For the longest time, I thought that no one is allowed to touch my boobs, like, not even me.
Students in class were crying and stuff. Like, this was not normal. Growing up, I don't think we ever spoke about sex. In school or at home, I think the only time I actually started talking about sex like it was a normal thing was about a year or two ago. And my parents never had the talk with me. And
Oh my gosh, I relate to this so much. Because my parents have never had that sex talk with me. I remember जब मेरी बहन की शादी हुई थी, मेरे भाई की शादी हुई थी, my parents were all उनके पीछे कि बच्चे चाहिए हमें, we want grandkids and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure जब मेरी शादी होगी, my mom will say the same thing कि we want grandkids. And then I'll go like, but how do you have grandkids? Like, मेरे को समझाओ please, मैं किसी ने सिखाया नहीं आज तक. Sorry, मेरे को आता नहीं है. Okay, next.
assume that you'd learn it through school, through sex ed. I did in a way, but I also didn't get a typical sex ed class that one would assume. You know, you would expect sex ed to be like they'd teach you about the biology and then they'd go into areas of consent and then pleasure and protection and whatnot, right? I go to this very
बहन आपने बहुत ज़्यादा मांग लिया. This sounds like a distant dream right now.
school. We were sexualized since we were like first, second graders, and they kept telling us, you know, don't wear short clothes, don't do this, don't do that. We were existing just to be sexualized, which was really sad, unfortunately.
मैं जब स्कूल में थी, I have really fat lips, so my lips get chapped easily. So I had to carry a lip balm around all the time with me. And I remember a teacher saw me apply lip balm and she said, हाँ यही मतलब लड़कों को दिखाने के लिए करना है तुम्हें, whatever, stuff like that. And okay, next.
We had this one teacher, she took it up on herself to teach us sex ed. So the class starts and Vanto, she's locked the door, she's shut all the windows as if we're sneakily doing this class. She stands in front of us and she goes like, I am going to teach you guys about this term sex. And now obviously us being the children, we were like, hee hee hee, sex. And
I feel like ये जो ही ही sex वाला mindset है, वो I think society की वजह से है, because you know it's something that we should not talk about it openly. I feel like अगर starting से sex normalize किया जाए like other things, we won't have this attitude from a very young age, you know.
in my head, sex was like a naked man and a naked woman under the sheets, and I had no idea what happened, but that was my idea of it.
Obviously, that's not true at all. If you still think that that's true, then watch all the Dobara videos.
Then she starts with who sex should happen between. And she explicitly said, first of all, sex is only and only to be between a man and a woman and no one else. Then she continued to say, the man and the woman must be married to each other. And the only purpose that you should have sex is for children. Then the second half of the sex ed lecture was about after having sex, if you get pregnant, how at any cause you should never ever abort the child. And where
मतलब abortion तुम लोग promote नहीं भी कर रहे, but फिर छुप छुप के करते भी हो to abort the girl child. I think abortion is fair if it's the woman's choice to not have the baby. And it's her body, so उसको करने दो जो करना है उसकी body के साथ. Like तुम कौन होते हो कुछ बोलने वाले, you know?
I have 14-year-old girls just sitting there wondering what is happening, and this teacher is yelling at us, telling us, you will go to hell if you first of all have sex with a man who's not your husband, and then if you try to abort the child, you will be sent to the fiery pits of hell. We were like, kya ho raha hai? I mean, what is happening? So we didn't learn a
By the way, talk में हमें बताया था कि no one has the permission to touch your boobs. For the longest time, I thought that no one is allowed to touch my boobs, like not even me. So I think, okay, no one is allowed to touch my boobs without consent. It took me time to like understand that. So I think अपने Indian sex education system में ये भी बहुत ज़्यादा गड़बड़ है कि you know, even if they try to teach you about consent, they do it the wrong way.
fiery pits of hell. We were like, kya ho raha hai? I mean, what is happening? So we didn't learn a single thing about the biology of sex, about consent, about anything. Students in class were crying and stuff. Like, this was not normal. There was another biology teacher in school who, again, realized what was happening wasn't exactly right. So she took it on herself to do another sex ed class with us. So she taught us what she could, and then she did explain to us a little bit about the condom and about, you know, how our bodies function and stuff. But again, it was too technical for like my brain back then to really understand it. So
Yeah, I remember even we had a science teacher, and even she taught it quite technically. Basically, learning sex ed to get marks in school, not to implement these things in real life. Okay.
of course, if you don't get sex ed from school, if your parents don't talk to you about it, the one place we all go to is porn. And I watched porn for the first time in the 10th grade then. And
I watched porn first time in the 7th grade, and I was scarred, let me tell you.
I was extremely scarred. Forget my own body. I didn't even know that men, they come, like semen actually comes out of their body. I had no idea. So when I saw it, I was shocked. I was like, what is this? What is happening? When they did it in a porn video, it just looked so painful to me, and I was like, is this what it is?
Yeah, I've realized that for the longest time, porn videos were made for the male gaze, and I also used to think that like sex is mostly to satisfy a man, and the only job that a female has is to provide pleasure to the man. Okay.
Sometimes it pains me to say that even as a 19-year-old, I'm still discovering things because no one's taught me, no one's talking about it, no one's explaining how it works to me. And this is not what should have been the case.
Yes, I am still discovering at the age of 22. I know nothing about anything. It's still a huge learning process, and it's just sad that I can't just go and talk to anyone I want. It's such a taboo topic still. So I hope that in the comment section, we all are free to ask each other questions and talk about it so that we all are safe during this enjoyable process.